Welcome back. Talking about the 2016 presidential race. We now want to talk about Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio. We have with us John Langston, also from Kent Seiler's political science class. All right, we're going to play a commercial about Cruz kind of attacking Rubio. I'll start with you here. What about these two? They're very interesting to me.
They are, and here's the strategy. Rubio and Cruz think that, well, Bush isn't going to get off the ground. Trump and Carson will eventually implode, and it's going to be between them. So they're kind of ignoring the other candidates, and this is one of Cruz's super PACs, and there are like half a dozen of them, that has opened up on this front on Marco Rubio.
And what do you think it is about these two candidates? We are seeing them go up in the polls. Certainly, Rubio's been going up. Now Cruz is going up. What do you think it is?
Well, I think you're starting to see the death of the American moderate. I think both sides of the aisle, with President Obama's historic elections, and then now, you have the rise of Senator Cruz and Senator Rubio. I just think that, America is so polarized now, and you can't really identify why, but that just seems to be the political landscape that we have nowadays.
The death of the moderate, and you could certainly make an argument about that. All right, we're going to see a commercial now in which Cruz kind of attacks Rubio. Set that up for us. What's going to happen here?
Well, back in 2013, Senator Rubio was involved in a bipartisan Senate bill with Democrat Chuck Schumer from New York. It was called the Gang of Eight immigration bill. They tried to do like a path to citizenship, which is called amnesty nowadays, and it's a hot button issue, especially in the Republican primary. And Senator Cruz, of course, being the stalwart conservative he is, was against this vehemently, and is really hitting Senator Rubio hard on this.
So again, the notion of compromise not being good. Okay, let's take a look at that commercial.
When Marco Rubio teamed up with John McCain, Chuck Schumer, Lindsey Graham, and Bob Menendez to push his Gang of Eight amnesty scheme, he said he wanted to secure the border. But then Rubio voted against every border security amendment Ted Cruz and Jeff Sessions proposed. Every one. It was part of the deal Rubio made with Obama. No amendments, even on border security. Ted Cruz was only in the Senate a few weeks, but it was his leadership that stopped the Obama-Rubio Gang of Eight amnesty bill. Ted Cruz, secure the border. No welfare for illegal aliens. No path to citizenship. Enforce, improve, and strengthen current laws. Marco Rubio betrayed our trust, failed us, and he's done nothing since coming to Washington but push for amnesty. Ted Cruz for president, now, before it's too late. Courageous Conservatives PAC paid for this ad and is solely responsible for its contents. Not authorized by any candidate or candidate committee. CourageousConservativesPAC.com.
Wow, that's pretty hardcore.
It's tough, yeah.
And all right, so it's so interesting to see these because we don't get a chance to see them here in Tennessee. These are obviously running in Iowa, New Hampshire, other places. That to me is the most negative of any we've seen certainly tonight. But is that among the most negative out there right now?
It's one of the more hard-hitting, and it would, people would argue that the people who argue for negative advertising are that it's fact-based and that it does all these things. But yeah, it's pretty hard-hitting, and the really interesting thing there, for the environment we're in, is that was a Cruz supportive super PAC. There are like 4 others, maybe 5 others, and you can't coordinate, but this one opens up a front, and what the others are supposed to do is notice how they're attacking, and they're supposed to jump in. That's kind of where we are now. They kind of pick a leader, and then it's follow the leader. So it'd be interesting to see if these other super PACs come out and start hitting on the same front.
And the notion that when you have a bunch of candidates, it is dangerous to attack another candidate is something I've always heard in politics. When there are a bunch of candidates, you kind of keep it positive. But here, it is interesting that Cruz has just singled out Rubio. So clearly he thinks it comes down to Rubio.
Yeah, he thinks he's looking at the tea leaves and thinking that, this is the competition.
So how do you see the path forward for both of them?
Well, Senator Cruz is by far the most well-organized candidate in the entire field. He has county chairman in all 171 early voting states, that being Nevada, South Carolina, New Hampshire, and Iowa. So he's well organized. He has the most cash on hand of all the candidates, and he identifies well with conservatives, which in the primary, it's different from a general election. These are mostly conservative voters that come out to vote for these things. And for Senator Rubio, I think he just got to try to get Jeb Bush's people going forward and try to pick up some of the more moderates and just hope to not say the wrong things and going
It's
forward.
fascinating to me that he's the most, Cruz has the most money and is the most organized.
Yes, sir.
So he's been doing a lot of work.
Yes, sir.
And it's also fascinating to me that we're not talking too much about Jeb Bush.
Yeah, it is, and who would have believed it? I am not totally ready to count him out, although, boy, he still stays down at 5% and nothing seems to happen. But when you start looking at it in a typically logical way, which this one hasn't been, he's a strong general election candidate. He's got the experience. He's got everything you would typically want. I think there certainly is Bush fatigue. I think that is a factor. So it's, I would bet against it happening, but I'm not ready to totally take it off the table.
And history, he may point out, John McCain, where was he at this point? He was still pretty far down.
I remember one very distinct story where John McCain had the Straight Talk Express, the camper, like a Winnebago they would go around in, or a bus. At one point, he didn't have the money to buy gas and ended up with the nomination. He looked like he was gone. Couldn't buy gas and ended up being the nominee. So you got to remember it is early. But some of the stories right now too, it's early until a couple of weeks after Thanksgiving. So we're getting to a pivotal place here. Iowa starts in February, then you follow New Hampshire. Things start happening very quickly. So it's early, but we're about there.
It's about to happen. Yeah, right after the first of the year. It all just it's fascinating. It's fun. John Langston, thank you for being with us, sharing your wisdom on Cruz and Rubio. All right, we're going to take a break. Come back. Now we're going to talk about Donald Trump and see a commercial of his. That'll be interesting. We'll take a break. Be back right after this.